Hello, everyone.
Hi, Abraham.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for being here.
Thanks to everybody. Uh, it's nice to be back here again. So we'll just take it right up, and I would like to welcome everybody to this session once again. And I hope you've been enjoying the conference so far. Um, I'm quite glad we're having this particular session. Looking into Africa, even at this very important time. And I really hope everyone is staying safe because that is very important. For the next 1 hour, we will be engaging in a very important topic, um, majorly focusing on space weather studies in Africa, looking into capacity building, infrastructures, the scientific results and opportunities that are ahead for the future. And there is no other important person to take care of this than a very renowned person in Africa. He's a professor of physics and also the director of the Center for Atmospheric Research at the Nigerian National Space Research and Development Agency. He has won so many awards, and recently he was the third it was the Young Scientist of the Year in 2000 in Nigeria. He has got so many awards. He's also part of the International Academy of Astronautics and the US Institute of Navigation. And is a member of so many professional bodies like the American Geophysical Union, African Geospace Society, the Japan Geoscience Union, and even the Nigerian Institute of Physics. So I believe he's well, capable of dealing with this topic. And I will give him the floor to, you know, take us even into this topic. And I hope we do enjoy this section. So over to our presenter for this our Professor Babatunde Rabiu. The floor is yours, sir. Uh, your mic is mute, sir. Is it mute?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. We can hear you now.
Okay, so you can hear me now, right?
Yes, we can.
All right, so thank you, Abraham, and every other person listening to me today. It's a pleasure being here. I will quickly run through space weather studies in Africa and give you information about the infrastructures, capacity building, and our ability to generate scientific results and some opportunities that are available in Africa and elsewhere for Africans. As space weather is fast becoming an international concern, is a global concern because of its applications in numerous areas, numerous sectors. Space weather describes the conditions in space that affect the Earth and its technological systems. It describes a lot. It has to do with the interactions of the sun with the Earth via the solar wind interactions with the magnetosphere and the impact this has on the Earth's ionosphere. And it becomes very vital because it describes the conditions in the space environment. And it's in this space environment that we have the myriads of satellites that actually happen to be at the center of space-dependent technologies that the world now depend on. Is a consequence of the sun's behavior, the Earth's magnetic field, and our location in the solar system. It has great impact on virtually every sector of the world today. Today's global economy is being digital driven. And thanks to COVID-19 lockdown, and even the conference we are having today is space dependent. And a lot of activities have been shifted from physical interactions to virtual interactions. All these are rooted, all this depends on a form of satellite technology. The global navigational systems, the aircraft, aviation sector, and all of these are impacted by space weather. But just to quickly go into some other aspects, Africa as a nation is naturally located within a region that is severely affected by space weather. The reason being that the deep equator, this red line you are seeing in the slide, shows the deep equator, which is also synonymous with the magnetic equator. This has a very, the equatorial region, the region around the magnetic equator is a very dynamic region in the space environment. And the Africa is somehow located such that it has the broadest range of magnetic equator from the west to the eastern coast. From the western coast to the eastern coast, you have a very broad length, and then the width of what we call the equatorial ionospheric anomaly, which is about plus or minus 17 degrees north or south of the magnetic equator, can also be studied in its full spectrum within the African sector, even on ground, using ground-based data. And this, you cannot find this uniqueness, this combination elsewhere in the continent. In the Indian sector, for example, the deep equator passed through the tip of the southern boundary of Indian nation. And in South American sector where we have this deep equator, again, it has a unique geometry in the sense that the deep equator is inclined here, or like in Africa, is virtually, is almost approximately horizontal. So the uniqueness of the passage of the deep equator over Africa make the region to be very unique in our study of space weather. And with what you have on ground nowadays, we are beginning to see some new results that are complementing existing results in Africa. In terms of infrastructures, before the year 2004, there were paucity of structures on ground. But thanks to United Nations intervention, there was a program called the International Heliophysical Year, which was actually orchestrated to mark 50 of the golden anniversary. That's a 50th year or 50th anniversary of the of space activities. And during that time, the United Nations organized the International Heliophysical Year. And from 2004, in preparation for 2007, and several equipments were brought to Africa at that time. And this program was succeeded in 2009 by the International Space Weather Initiative, which is also being anchored by United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs in collaboration with NASA and other leading space agencies. The program has strengthened us, our African participation in space weather studies. We now have several equipments on ground. We have magnetometers, GNSS receivers, and some other equipments that I will still be referring to in these studies have been brought into Africa over this period of time. And this has enhanced our capacity building. And as we have been able to internally within Africa train several masters and PhD candidates, more than 50 in all, in different countries in Africa. And we've been able to maintain short-term visits to overseas partner institutions. in addition to this, we've been able to organize series of space weather schools. And of course, the United Nations workshops actually took place in Africa at the peak of the activities. That was in 2010 when we had the program in Egypt, which was a United Nations workshop on space weather. And then the next year, that was 2011, we had another workshop in Nigeria in October 2011. The implication is summarized by these charts. All over Africa, we have signatures of the United Nations double scientific intervention. Of the 54 sovereign nations in Africa, we have been able to produce professors in this area of studies that are based in various universities in most of the institutions, at least, most of the countries that are participating in the space weather initiatives. And then we have diligent students on ground, and we have research facilities. And this shows the signatures of those facilities. We have GPS receivers that can monitor space environment. We have Fabry-Perot interferometer in Morocco, in Ethiopia, in Nigeria, in Cote d'Ivoire, in South Africa. And then this monitors atmospheric winds, and then some other physical properties of the upper atmosphere. We also have optical imagers. We have magnetometers in about 20 of the countries. There are some other equipments under the IHY campaign and ISWI campaign, like Callisto and optical imagers that are available in different parts of the continent. There's also these SID monitors, that's the sudden ionospheric disturbances monitors. Initially, at the beginning, most of the equipments came by foreign intervention, but now we're beginning to have national participation, that is participation from African countries as well, which is complementary and is highly welcome. Data that are obtained from this equipment are being used to improve our understanding of global space weather. This is showing some of the workshops, schools, or conferences that have been organized in Africa. This is not really capturing everything, beginning from the first major event that we had in space weather, in the scope of space weather studies, was in Cape Verde, an highland nation in the western part of Africa, off the coast of Senegal. And that was in 2006. It was an IHY single workshop. From there, we've had series of workshops in South Africa, Ethiopia, Zambia, Nigeria, Egypt, several workshops, and we've continued to see increase in the number of workshops, schools, and conferences that are taking place in Africa. This list is not exhaustive, so there are still more workshops that have been done but are not captured here for lack of space. This is just showing pictures of some of these workshops and schools. For example, this particular slide is showing a school that took place in Nigeria in November 2008, 12 years ago. I chose to display this because some of the participants in these meetings today are now professors. As at that time, some of them just completed their master's program, and today some of them are professors and leading scientists in Ethiopia, in Zambia, in South Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana, and different countries of the world. Sitting down there, squatting in the front, on the front row here is Nana Hama, Brown, who is now a professor in Ghana. As at that time, she was just on a PhD, and several others as well that were invited to Nigeria. And I would like to say that this is the beginning of a new generation of training of new generation of scientists in Africa as at that time. Because some of them now tell me that that was the first time they ever traveled out of their country. But the trip of all the foreign participants was actually sponsored by NASA for this particular mission. I coordinated that school. And then this is showing the school we had in Kigali, in Rwanda, and it was majorly sponsored by International Center for Theoretical Physics, Italy, and Boston College in the US. This was a school we had in Abuja, Nigeria in 2015, sponsored by the Nagoya University, GSPS of Japan government, and then Nigerian government as well. This was another school we had in 2017 in Nigeria, and about 60 participants came for this school from 10 countries. This was the one we had last year in Nigeria. This series of international colloquium on equatorial and low latitude ionosphere is actually scheduled to be taking place in Nigeria and on a yearly basis. The one for this year is going to be online. As part of the capacity building program as well, we have been privileged to enjoy support of the International Center for Theoretical Physics and Boston College that have jointly been involved in organizing a series of annual workshops, primarily for African participants. About 5 years ago, the program got expanded to other international countries, so beyond other continents. Since 2009, the workshop has been taking place. We've had 11 editions, and these workshops facilitate deployments of GNSS receivers to Africa, and over 500 African scientists have been trained under this series by leading experts in GNSS at the annual workshops. That is, the leading experts in GNSS technology, science, and science have actually been coming around to train participants in these workshops. And it's been a very good training model for the use of GNSS in space weather studies. These are some of the direct benefits to us, to African academics and students. We've had a deployment of research infrastructures. For example, this is a GNSS receiver that came as a result of that interaction and was installed in the northern part of Nigeria in a town called Sokoto in Nigeria. And this was installed in 2013 and is functional. We've also been able to have direct access to software developed by ICTP Group, the one we call GG Software, and that of the Boston College. And training, also, we've benefited from training. Also, we have privilege of having a short-term visit to Boston College and ICTP by our students as well as scientists. We also, as a result of this, we've been able to organize workshops in Africa, because after the training every year, we encourage scientists to go back to their countries and reproduce the workshops. And this has been very, very productive. And so there are a lot of activities going on with respect to capacity building. This was the first workshop under that category of ICTP Boston College GNSS workshops for Africa that held in 2009 at Trieste, Italy. And about 47 Africans were there. There were 37 non-Africans at this very first workshop. mostly the 37 non-Africans who are experts in the field of GNSS technology that came to teach at this very workshop. While some of us from African nations, about 5 of us then joined to teach in the workshop, but then almost the remaining 42 Africans came to learn in this workshop, solely to learn. And it continued until last year. We had the last series, the last edition in the series took place last year. The COVID-19 lockdown has stalled the one for this year. This was in 2018. We had a similar workshop in ICTP, and by then it's been expanded to include more participants, postdocs, graduate students from other nations of the world, including Pakistan, Brazil, different, and some other countries. These are different countries that have, where we've had participation in the ICTP GNSS meetings, and where we've recorded at least one participant we've marked with green here. And you can see that we've had participants from Zambia, South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, Egypt, Senegal, Morocco, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and so on. I've emphasized some of the benefits that we have derived from some of these trainings and capacity building. They're quite enormous. We've had many MSc and PhD degrees being awarded in the course of this adventure. And now we have space physics program at postgraduate levels in Africa. And some universities in Nigeria are beginning to inculcate space physics into their first degree programs. That is, we are beginning to have some universities that are projecting to have BSc in space physics. We have instruments and we have data available for research purpose. And we have increase in research publications and increase in number of African-based professors. That is, some of us that are Africans are beginning to stay back in Africa to develop the field of study in Africa. Because we are beginning to have more conducive environment, because we have our equipment, we have our software, and we can interact with our foreign counterparts to produce results. There is also positive involvement, or what we call the catalyzation of national government participation in space weather. That is, nations are beginning to get involved in space weather studies by providing funds for research purpose. And we're having strong inter and intranational cooperation within African scientists. I'll give us an example of this, or a product of this interaction. We also exchange scientists and students among African countries. Some African students have privilege of traveling to some other African countries to do their research and to interact with scientists in those nations. And this has really helped us to control brain drain. That is, migration of experts out of Africa has been controlled by this. Yes, we are still having migration. We can't stop people from moving, but then we now have some that are staying back and are still productive. So the most important of this is that we can sit back in Africa and do what I refer to as internationally competitive research. So it is possible to do internationally competitive research residing in Africa and published in leading journals in the field. Like yesterday, we got a paper published in Space Weather. Just yesterday, the letter of acceptance came through. And we've had some more papers in Space Weather journals already. And so we get involved in what is productive, and we stay back at home. Also, apart from having international programs within the different countries, we encourage national schools on space science in different countries. And listed here are schools that we have done in Nigeria that are national schools. For example, we had a workshop on African participation in IHY and ISWI in 2010. And we've had different schools that are listed here within Nigeria that are national schools. Occasionally, we have people from neighboring countries coming in to participate in these schools. And these have been very helpful. For example, on these slides, there are some friends from Ghana that came to participate in a school we had in Nigeria in 2014. About 2 of them are now PhD students in Brazil. That was a picture of a school we had. And these are some of the research publications that we've generated from some of our results that have been published. And we conduct all manners of field that cuts across different spectrum of space weather, and ranging from variability studies to morphology studies, and then also modeling. We're involved in modeling the electron content and some other parameters in the ionosphere and space environment. The end result of this, as displayed sometimes about 3 years ago, is that the number of research publications in Africa has continued to increase. That is, by Africans that are residing in Africa. That's what they mean by these African papers. From 2003 to 2015, you can see a great increase, a great jump, and in the number of publications from Africa. This is done by our partners in Italy, that is by Radicella and Nava Bruno. So there is a serious growth in number of papers published in peer-reviewed journals. These are some of the outputs that we've had from our works as well. This has to do with the studies of plasma bubbles over Nigeria, where we have an optical imager that captures the space environment. And with that, we're able to monitor and see for the first time the signatures of plasma bubbles in Africa optically for the first time. And this was published in a JGR Journal of Geophysical Research. Permit me to skip, that's the publication on display. And then I'd like to, as I round off, get close to the end, I quickly want to mention 2 national facilities that are available for space weather research in Africa. One is the SANSA Space Science in Amanos. Obviously, Amanos is the leading space weather center in Africa. And since 2011, it's been hosting the Space Weather Warning Center in Africa, providing early warning and forecast on space weather activity for public and private sectors. And it also serves as training ground for African scientists and researchers. Amanos has been in existence before the formation of SANSA. And so when SANSA came on board, it was accommodated under SANSA. That's the South African Space Agency, and it's responsible for the science functions of the South African space agencies. They are actively involved in space weather, and is a very good infrastructure for Africa as a whole. Their research activities include geomagnetic research, ionospheric research, waves and space plasma, space weather, and so on. And also another national facility is the Center for Atmospheric Research Nigeria, where I direct or I lead, and is a world-class R&D center of the Nigerian Space Agency, committed to research and capacity building in the atmospheric and related sciences. We also provide research facilities and services for the atmospheric and earth sciences community. We operate in 3 modes: by observations, by conducting research, and also training. And our training involves capacity building, outreach, and so on. We are actively involved in a space weather project over Nigeria as well as over Africa. And our aim and objective has been to monitor and nowcast space weather over Nigeria and to develop in-country expertise for implementations, operations, processing, and analysis of space weather processes. We have a network of ground-based facilities over the countries, and I'll give the list in due time. And also we've set up, within Nigeria, we have set up 5 different laboratories in Nigeria that are like observatories, where we have our staff domiciling in those laboratories. For example, this is the first one. This one was set up in 2015 in Abuja, and this is the facility that is housing our optical imager, and that's the OSKY imager. And it also has some other facilities, GNSS receivers, and 2 magnetometers are there, as well as a fabric parrot interferometer, which is a project of the National Center for Atmospheric Research of Boulder, that is Colorado in the US. This is the rooftop of the facility where there's a dome that is covering the optical imager, and you can see our visiting scientists from Paris, Christine Mazaldia, and at that point in time, we're having some scientific discussions at the rooftop of the facility. Some magnetometers are also on ground there. We have the septentrial type of a GNSS receivers, and there's the antenna. In Hull, the space weather monitoring facilities available in Nigeria are the 5 GPS stations littered in different parts of the country, 1 OSKY imager, 8 magnetometers that are locally fabricated in Nigeria and are taking measurement. Also, we have 1 scintillation monitor, 1 fabric parrot interferometer, and this is a project we had with DLR in Germany. And we have an experiment that we refer to as the high frequency radio signal monitor, where we transmit in Abuja and the receiver is in Lagos, Nigeria, to monitor the performance of the high frequency signal. And with that, we characterize the ionosphere. We used to have these 4 magnetometers, 1 from AMBER project, and then 3 Magdas magnetometers, but right now, the 4 of them are not operational. We need to do some sort of work on them. This shows the locations of our space research laboratories in Nigeria. We intend to have more of such observatories in different parts of the country. And this is also showing our locally fabricated magnetometers and where the locations where we have deployed them. And this red line is showing the magnetic deep equator, the way the magnetic equator crosses Nigeria. And this is a product that has now been globally improved, that have been improved on. And this is what was published yesterday in Space Weather, was accepted for publication in Space Weather. And is a model that is now referred to as the African GNSS Tech, AfriTech model. And it captures the GNSS, GNSS derived tech over Africa. Is a kind of predictive model as well. For example, this is showing what we expect tech to be over Africa tomorrow. That is 9th of August. And this is giving a whole day movie. And you can do the projection for some months, years, or days. And this model has been improved on with our collaboration with the South African space agencies and some of our other friends from the Indian Institute of Geomagnetism. And the lead scientist is a Nigerian, Dr. Daniel Oko, that works with our Center for Atmospheric Research. So the model is developed by the method of artificial neural network. And then also I mentioned earlier on that we have been able to improve on our intra-continental relationship. And so some years ago, 2012 precisely, African Geophysical Society was launched and in Ethiopia. And since then, we've had about 4 conferences of the society. Details about the society is available at this webpage, afgps.org, and it's actually developed as a society to function like the AGU. And we have a working memorandum of understanding with AGU. And the last information, okay, well, this will be the second to the last slide, probably, is the plan to have what is called the Nigerian Bowen Equatorial Aeronomy Radar, NIGERBIA. And this is going to be equivalent of SuperDAN, but in low latitude. So it's going to be like it function like SuperDAN, but for the first time, we have this in West Africa, in Nigeria, and is a project that is between the Bowen University, a faith-based university in Southwest Nigeria, and the Virginia Tech in the US, as well as our Center for Atmospheric Research. And it's going to be located at Bowen University in Nigeria. Like I said, it's first of its kind in low latitudes, and it's going to enhance our research capability. And we are expecting new science results that could improve our understanding of the equatorial ionosphere and space weather. It will also strengthen multi-technique approach to the ionosphere, to the study of the ionosphere. We are partnering with other organizations to make this a continental research infrastructure at completion. But the deployment procedure has already begun, and we hope that before the end of this year, the COVID-19 slowed the development down, but we hope that very soon we'll get through. And also, next month, we're going to have the International Colloquium on Equatorial and Low Latitude Ionosphere online next month, and details is available at this webpage, carnasda.com, and I think the deadline is next week for application, and it promises to be another period of learning, of interactions, of establishing linkages with global scientists. Already we have a subscription from over 40 participants in different parts of the world for this meeting. And finally, we have a lot of opportunities available for young ones, for people that are seeking collaboration in Africa. We have opportunities for exchange of students, to obtain research grants, to access scholarships, and we co-supervise guided students, from our different countries. For example, we have people in Nigeria that co-supervise students in other countries, and likewise from South Africa, from different other countries, so we share human resources. We also organize meetings together jointly, and we have our data that we can exchange with you, and we encourage data sharing, but we also encourage people to observe the proprietary rights of host countries or host institutions. We also host equipment in Africa, and we also encourage other African countries to host equipment from our partners. More importantly, SANSA and CAR, that is our Center for Atmospheric Research, have facilities to host African scientists, students on collaborative research. Conclusions, I've mentioned some of this earlier on, that the space weather is observed to be very dynamic over the equatorial Africa because of the passage of the magnetic equator and the dynamics associated with the equatorial region. And also there is an increasing participation of African states in international programs of relevance to space weather. Capacity building programs such as schools work on space weather within Africa and even outside Africa have been of tremendous assistance to African scientists. And we hope this will be sustained. There's also opportunities for involvement and cooperation. We are beginning to see densification of ground observational facilities, which are also required for effective monitoring. And this densification procedure we have to continue if we'll be able to master the space weather, especially over the equatorial region in Africa. We shall continue to organize regional and national schools in Africa, and we want to solicit for support from our well-meaning friends that are listening to this presentation. Please feel free to support us and feel free to come and run your schools in Africa. And whatever assistance you need, we shall be there to provide them. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, sir. I think that was a very great presentation. Thank you so much. I believe the idea of this presentation was for us to get more insight into what is actually going on in Africa, for people to actually, be able to know exactly what are the things that are actually going on. And I think you've done a lot of justice to that, at least giving us some insight. So thank you very much. And to everyone out there, we are using Slido for questioning. So I hope if you have your question, the link is already in the chat box, so you can put up your question on Slido. I see we already have 2 questions because we are running out of time, so I'll ask them right away. So one of the questions that we have, sir, is that what can be done to help tackle the brain drain that we have in Africa? Are there things that can be done to attract more people back who have left the continent, sir?
Okay, straight to that question. Yes, I've highlighted what is going on in Africa right now. And sincerely, that is the real situation in Africa. And we encourage people to come. But then if you work overseas, you can also link with us with the development, with the advent of ICT and what we are witnessing today. You can be everywhere and still make contributions to development of space weather studies in Africa. What I know that we are doing in our group is if we observe anyone that is interested in space weather studies in Africa, we make him comfortable and we adapt to the method that the individual will want to work with. So if you want to stay back in your adopted country and be of use in space weather studies, we shall work with you. If you want to come home and work, we shall also work with you. This is what I can say about that.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We have another question from Kumar. So he said, what role do you think new space companies can play in strengthening space weather infrastructures and capabilities in Nigeria and some other neighboring countries in Africa?
Yes, the quick response to that is that these new space companies can think of manufacturing space weather monitoring facilities. And because these are things that you can sell. These are things that the African institutions can buy and install in Africa. For example, we're still importing the septentrial GNSS. We're still importing we're importing the GNSS receivers. And but if you want to manufacture them in Africa or you want to deploy them to Africa, African scientists can purchase this. So this is one of the, so you can think of how to manufacture those space weather monitoring facilities like magnetometers and some other equipments, like we talk of the interferometers. So other equipments that can monitor these atmospheric parameters. So you can think of going into that instrumentation development. In our Center for Atmospheric Research is one of our major projects, and that is why we were able to produce those magnetometers. But we may not be able to produce en masse because we are not we're not supposed to be, we're not commercially oriented. So we are R&D of the federal government. So, but a company can come up with ideas, can produce UAV, drones, and some other things that you have a lot of patronage. In fact, Africa is a market that is yet to be explored in terms of space business, really, in terms of technology. We are mainly importing technologies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We have one more question. It says, are the weather centers located in, or are there weather centers located in farming intensive places?
Well, when you talk of weather stations in farming places, then you are not talking of space weather stations. You are talking of tropospheric weather stations, the popular atmospheric weather stations. So this monitors the lower atmosphere in the troposphere. There's a great difference between tropospheric weather and space weather. So as I can answer your question on atmospheric weather, because this is also under the mandate of study of my center. Now, our weather stations for us in our own centers, are not located primarily in farmlands. They are located, 27 of them are located in different universities in Nigeria. In Nigeria, we have over 150 universities. So of these 150 universities, 26 of our weather stations are located in different universities, and one is located at the headquarters of the Nigerian Space Agency. But then, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency that is saddled with the study of weather in Nigeria also have many weather stations, many all over the country, more than 100 in different parts of Nigeria. So, but we have a close relationship with them, so we share our data with them, and then we also do R&D for them. So, but I wouldn't know where their stations are located, but I know where ours are located. They are not in the farmlands. And mind you, in Nigeria, most of the farmlands are not, they are not big farmlands. They are owned by individuals. And I tell you, with the exception of agricultural research institutes that may have their weather stations that I am aware of, 2 agricultural research institutes that have their weather stations, because one of them have conducted training for their staff on how to man their weather stations. That's this, and then, but I don't think that we have these facilities all over farm stations in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So there's one other question someone is asking, that what role could the African Space Agency play in the projects that are presently being run in space weather in Africa? And are there any discussions currently happening between these institutions? And is there any thought about Pan-African University towards space weather studies?
Well, thank you very much. There is a Pan-African University in South Africa on space science. There is African Regional Center for Space Science, Technology, and Education. The one for English-speaking countries is in Ife, in Nigeria. There is one in Morocco for French-speaking countries. And recently, the Nigerian Space Agency set up an Institute for Space Science and Education and affiliated this to the African University of Science and Tech that is located in Abuja. I know that in all of these places, there are studies going on space physics generally, or space science. But so space weather can only come as part of those studies. Now, for the African Space Agency, yes, they have funds to support capacity building. And I will make public request to them here, because I know we have tried to make a request sometimes. Last year when we had our colloquium, we made a request to them to support the capacity building, but then we didn't get a good response from them. So I wouldn't know if we have the representation of the African Space Agency here, there are genuine efforts that should be supported by the African Space Agency towards capacity building. And I think that some of us are in a position to provide this genuine, to provide this offer. And I will encourage the African space agencies to make their funds available for our capacity building programs. We get support from United Nations, we get support from countries that are outside Africa, but we don't get support from within Africa to bring African students together. So this is where I think the African Space Agency may help us by providing flight tickets for participants from outside the very country where this event will take place. No, but we're not asking for money. We're not asking for money for cash, but we're asking for money for flight tickets for African participants. For example, if the workshop is taking place in Nigeria, sponsor 10 participants from outside Nigeria to come to Nigeria. Buy their tickets, don't give them money. Buy their tickets and bring them together. So the African Space Agency has a very great role to play in capacity building, in space weathers, and also in purchasing of equipment. You can buy equipment and distribute. And some of us are in a position to provide the advisory roles. And by the way, some of us were involved in formulation of the African space policy that eventually gave birth to African Space Agency. So the implementation of the African Space Agency should also involve those that worked on the space policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. There is one other question that I would like to ask. So someone is saying that many young Nigerians are still running away from space studies because they are seeing it as a tug of war between USSR and then Russia and US. So the person is asking that, how do you think this field can be made more attractive to young people, at least for the next generation?
Well, with what we are doing, I think with due respect to what we have achieved with a great sense of humility, I think there is no better time that space weather studies can be more attractive in Nigeria than now. Tomorrow can be better, next tomorrow can be better, but it depends on your generation, Abraham, and generations of those that are coming after me. But I think we've tried to lift the level at which space science was 10 years ago is not that same level right now. You can stay in Nigeria and publish in space weather, in JGR, Journal of Geophysical Research. We speak with element of authority when we speak in our field of studies. And we examine students also from different parts of the world. I mean, at PhD level, and we co-supervise students in developed countries. So somehow, some of us, and some of my great friends in Kenya, Paul Baki, and some other people, Obro, Maruz in Egypt, different countries, they have really tried so much to lift the standard of space weather science. And I think this is actually, I would say that is at this moment, the only request I will make to whosoever is asking that question and some other people is that probably we can engage in more communications. After this, they can send message. I think I displayed my email address on my presentation. You can send me email. You can send email to the organizers of this workshop. Also, they can reach out to me. We can provide appropriate guidance. Like we do have scholarship invitations. Like right now, there are about 3 Nigerians that are studying in Brazil at INPE. That's the Brazil National Space Agency. And there was a call out that we could send people, and they sat for the entrance examinations and passed. 2 of them are doing PhD. Okay, 2 are on masters. And this is the scholarship is being provided by the Brazilian government. So before then, there was a Nigerian there. There is a Ghanaian that will be defending his thesis end of this month in Brazil. So, and we try to provide these opportunities. We create opportunities. At this my level, I cannot get involved in PhD thesis. I cannot go and sit for PhD degree again, but I can create the opportunities. That's what we are doing. By the way, the slogan of my Center for Atmospheric Research is creating opportunities. So create opportunities for the coming scientists. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's time to finally wrap up. We are almost out of time. Just with your wrap-up statement, because I would want you to just wrap everything up. But as you wrap up, I would like you to address this final question, talking about government policies in Africa, IP and indigenous technology rights for government actually helping the young generation in terms of policy, in terms of funds. I know you already mentioned that, but as you wrap up, I want you to include this, at least addressing this in your wrap-up statement.
Okay, well, I've said a lot, and I want to still emphasize that the space weather science is gaining momentum in Africa, and there are still a lot of opportunities. There are still many questions that we need to investigate in the, for example, in the African equatorial region. And so we need involvement of serious students to get involved. There are some few scholarship opportunities that are available that we can expose to some of these students. For example, as of today, our data sharing is free, is at no cost. And we'll make this available for R&D purpose. Just that you have to observe the proprietary rights, and that is providing the necessary acknowledgement, and then you get this done. Well, with respect to policy, the national policy, well, I provide policy advice, but I'm not a policy maker. But then we try our best by passing across appropriate information to the government. And I think it depends, because we have 54 nations in Africa, so different countries have different policies. And the level of underdevelopment varies from one country to another. What I will encourage every African scientist to do is to try to be relevant in his or her own country. Try to make projections, try to make scientific advice, and at any time that you have opportunity, please be truthful and try to make a difference. And this is the way our society can grow. The society today depends on the youths, depends on the young scientists. If the young scientists have no future, then there is no future for the country. And this will be my last word, really. At this point, I want to say thank you to the organizers of this forum, and thank you for inviting me to give this speech. And I want to also mention that the opinions on the slides are majorly my opinions. And if there is any form of a disagreement with anybody's opinion, I want to say that I'm sorry, but these are my opinions and they are very viable anywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Babatunde. This is Juan de Dalmau speaking. I serve as the ISU president. We're very, very honored with what you said and how you said it. We now understand much better the challenges and the opportunities that you have presented. And hopefully the ISU network can collaborate with your initiatives. We're really honored. Thank you and have a great weekend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.